You're watching continuing coverage on the SABC this evening of an anticipated address by President Cyril Ramaphosa. The time set is 7 p.m. The president speaking to the country at a time when the police service is beset by very serious allegations implicating some of its serious members, including Minister Senzo Mchunu. All of it stemmed from a briefing exactly a week ago by the Commissioner of Police in KwaZulu-Natal, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, who claimed that Mchunu and the Deputy National Commissioner of Police, Shadrack Sibiya, were doing the bidding of people with criminal links, syndicates basically, and that even the dissolution of the political killings task team was linked to that nefarious web.
And of course, because of that, we are now anticipating that national broadcast, of course, from President Cyril Ramaphosa, who will be addressing the nation and taking into the confidence of the country when it comes to some of the serious allegations being leveled against the police's top brass in the country.
And I think it's worth reflecting then on the careers, if you will, at this stage of some of the characters involved in the story that we're discussing. You're looking now at Senzo Mchunu. Let's look at his history just in terms of the positions he's held. We had there we go. Let's go to 2009 to 2013, because that's when you could say he gained prominence, because at that point he was the MEC for Education in KwaZulu-Natal, so serving in provincial government. He then ascended in 2013 to become the Premier of the province, a much more powerful position at the time. And even then, after he had appeared to have fallen out of favor, if you will, in terms of local politics in KZN, he got a promotion. He fell upwards, some would say, becoming the Minister of Public Service and Administration from about 2019 until 2021. He then went on to become the Minister of Water and Sanitation in 2021 to 2024. And then last year, at the establishment of the Government of National Unity, where the ANC had for the first time had to share power at a national level, Mchunu was among the people who were moved around. He became Minister of Police. And that is where scandal and these allegations have now met him, as per what Mkhwanazi has alleged.
All right, and now let's bring in some of very important information just to note of the KZN Police Commissioner, and that is, of course, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. And as you can see there on your screen, let's start off there. In 1993, Mkhwanazi is known to have joined the South African Police Service as a police constable. He was a student constable at that time. And then track forward years later, he was appointed to lead the police's special task force, and that's in 2005. And many then know him for his role as the acting police commissioner, the national commissioner of police, and that's in 2011. But of course, following that time, he was then brought in as the acting provincial police commissioner. And you would note that is a very crucial and important time, because that's just shortly after the 2017 ANC's national conference. And that's when he was brought back in by the new president of the ANC in 2017. And then later on, he was appointed as a full-time provincial commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal in December 2018. Let's now bring in once again, our politics editor. He's all the way at the Union Buildings, Mzwandile Mbeje, and he has the presidency spokesperson for you.
Well, thank you very much, Mbali. Indeed, I'm with the spokesperson of the president, Vincent Mokoena, here to give us a quick update as to whether we are on time, or perhaps some time has gone somewhere. Mr. Mokoena, good to have you. Are we on time at 7 o'clock?
No, Mzwandile will be issuing an advisory now updating the time to 7:30 because there's still a little bit of work in crossing the T's and dotting the I's. But we'll be starting on time at 7:30. And as you know, as a broadcast professional yourself, when the president gets here, we always need to just run through a few technical elements before we start, and we just want to give a little bit of time to that. We can apologize to the viewers that we'll be delaying them for about 30 minutes.
So are we expecting some heavy announcement? You don't have to tell me what it is because that is the president to say, but with someone who is working with the president, knowing the weight of the responsibility that he carries and the seriousness of the allegations. So can we expect some really big announcement tonight?
Well, precisely that's Mzwandile, is that very serious allegations were made, allegations that are of concern, grave concern from a national security point of view, and therefore the announcement that you will hear today is an announcement that recognizes the magnitude of the seriousness of these allegations. It's an announcement that recognizes the importance of all of our law enforcement agencies, their vital role in terms of keeping us all safe as South Africans, but more importantly, their role in the fight against crime. And so you will hear an announcement that matches the grave nature of the allegations, the seriousness in which the president regards law enforcement agencies, and the ability for those agencies to be led in a manner that they're able to fulfill their mandate.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mokoena.
Thank you.
Well, you've heard it there for yourself. The president is now speaking at 7:30, and then the presidential spokesperson has just confirmed right now to the SABC they'll be issuing an advisory indicating that is the case. And then he indeed said the president will be making a big announcement because he recognizes that these allegations, Mbali and Mbeje, are quite serious.
Mzwandile Mbeje, SABC News politics editor. We'll come back to you, Mzwandile, throughout the evening as we wait now. 30 more minutes added to the waiting time. And while we wait, we're in good company. SABC News international editor Sophie Mokoena also with us, as are Professors Ndo and Professor Susan Boyson. And Professor Boyson, let's start with the delay. And it's one thing to say it's an important decision that is being made. I think we've got that covered. We know that. But does the delay perhaps suggest that there is doubt? Or what is it about the loose ends that we can read into that? Is there disagreement, perhaps, between the people affected or those who are influencing the decision?
Now, I would say that at this stage, the broad, in-principle decisions would have been taken. If there is any institutional reconfiguration or political killings task team, maybe something about the future of that, or changes in the allocation of positions, in principle, I'm pretty sure those have been taken. This type of delay reminds me of the kind of delay we usually see on the eve of announcement of new cabinets. So it makes me wonder whether perhaps there is indeed some reshuffling coming about. Maybe suspensions or stepping aside, whatever the case may be with a minister, maybe even in the structure of the policing department or commissioners, etc. We don't know whether he would go that far, but it sounds to me as if individuals are being consulted or briefed as to what the plans are, and maybe individuals consulted as to, are you ready to step into this or that position?
And if it is a reshuffle, then do you think the phrasing will be that the president has taken the decision to get rid of two ministers, basically, who've been in the headlines, Minister Mchunu or Ngabane, or will it be given, shall we say, more polite phrasing for political reasons?
Yes, the ultimate politeness, of course, is in a stepping aside within the ANC, but this goes right into government now. So it's possibly something, I would say the softest one would be special leave, which, according to media reports, is what Minister Mchunu has asked for. Otherwise, it's suspension or firing. So I think it would be one of the softer ones, so that the president indeed can go about and get certainty as to what is happening, because he, in his own words, in that interview with Sophie, has recognized that he didn't know what it's about, and he would want to be sure not to do unnecessary water peddling here, because the task for the president tonight is to persuade South Africans that he is actually in charge, that he is in command, and that the heart of the South African state, and that is in the security apparatuses, is under control and in safe hands. And that is a massive task, and that will depend on the people he gathers around him.
And Professor Ndo, is this an easy decision for the president to make here on the future of at least 2 of his ministers?
It's not an easy decision. The eyes of many South Africans are looking for the president to come up with something that would talk to the confidence in the SAPS, that would talk to issues that relates to peace and security, because if there are these kind of challenges in the SAPS, then we all not safe as citizens. But also, the president has got a lot of options at his disposal. Firstly, he is empowered by the Constitution to play around and change the cabinet, appoint that one or the other one. But also, he has got to consult his party, consult the GNU, and also get advice from the people that he has appointed. But of more interest is that the presidential spokesperson says we're going to get a big announcement. So if it's a big announcement, it could be the reshufflement of cabinet. It could be the removal of the minister of police. It could be that the minister could be advised to take leave. But also, we have to focus mainly on Minister Mkunu. He also has a role to play in the sense that he should save himself. He should save his party, the ANC. He should also save his president. And the best option, in my view, is that Mkunu should request the president to relieve him of his responsibilities temporarily, maybe, because there are a number of other processes that are going on. Parliament is dealing with this matter. These are allegations. They still have to be tested. Cases have been opened with the police. So there are a number of things that are happening. There is also an integrity commission of the ANC. So those are a number of factors that the president has to look at. But in the interest of all this, you need Mkunu to come forward and say, based on the gravity of these allegations, I could be innocent, or I know that I'm innocent, but please relieve me of my responsibilities temporarily, so that the investigation...
For the dignity of the office, essentially.
Indeed.
And Professor Levindo, I mean, when it comes to the posture of the president, how important will that be tonight? Particularly with the fact that the president coming into power, he singled out corruption, saying that he will deal with corruption. So how important will that be when you look at the track record of his presidency, when he promised South Africans that corruption is something that he will deal with, because these are serious allegations of political meddling within the police task force. When you look at this veracity of these allegations and the issue around corruption, and taking us back to the issue around the Guptas and corruption, how important will his posture be when you also look at just the notes taken out from the minister, or rather the spokesperson of the presidency, saying that this will be a big announcement?
The president is aware that South Africans are waiting for him not to just speak, but to provide a line of march. Action has to be taken. And most people are expecting the president to come with the big announcement as expected. But also, the president of the ANC and the entire ANC family is aware that part of the reason why they've lost power is because they've been lenient with corruption and corrupt activities. So with the number of ministers that appear to be implicated in wrongdoing, Mkunu can save the ANC and say, we don't need to have many ministers that are implicated. Maybe he should act differently.
But how do you make that case, sorry, Prof, when you consider that Thembisi Melani had her allegations linked to that loan from a VBS-linked individual? The president himself had the Phala Phala matter. Yes, there have been other reports that have cleared him, but we know the opposition in parliament is still not convinced that those findings were accurate. So he stays on, another minister stays on, yet Mkunu has to fall on his sword. How do we differentiate the consequences of the action that is then laid upon the individual who's linked or accused, and when should they go and when should they stay?
We have indeed a number of ministers that are implicated in wrongdoing. And that is why you have the parties like the Democratic Alliance even having to come out and say we're not going to support the budgets of these ministers. Situations could be different. We're dealing with the safety of citizens. We're dealing with crime in the country. We're dealing with issues that relates to drugs. We're also dealing with interference of the minister in the running of the department, but mainly the protection of people who appears to be doing wrong. And the emphasis is that there are communications that are taking place between the minister and these individuals. Minister Mkunu remains innocent until he is proven guilty by competent institutions of this country.
I think that was my point, though, that if we apply that principle, how do we decide who has the responsibility to resign and whose allegations are not serious enough to warrant a resignation?
If you need to maneuver and take the lenient route, you could therefore say, I am innocent, I've done nothing wrong, please give me a short leave, and then allow these institutions to investigate. When I'm innocent, then I can still come back and resume my responsibility.
Coming back to the issue of, this cabinet reshuffle that we may see. At the same time, Mr. Ndo, you even pointed out to the fact that, the president also has a responsibility within his party, and we've always known him as somebody who continues to consult. There will be this consultation process that will be undertaken, even how Professor Susan Boyson also said that the reason why we are seeing this delay may be because, he is starting to make a few phone calls and trying to iron out some issues. Would he want to conduct this cabinet reshuffle just before an ANC NEC meeting?
There could be that possibility. The unfortunate part is that when you are the president of the republic, and especially in South Africa, you need to consult as widely as possible. He could have consulted some of the officials in the ANC, but also the Democratic Alliance has been raising an issue that there are certain decisions that are being taken without them being consulted as members of the GNU. You could still have to consult the GNU partners and get their views. Also remember that there is still a deputy minister that still has to be appointed from the Democratic Alliance. That could also be an opportunity, I think, for the president to make such appointments. But the view is that he still has to maneuver and find a way out of this situation. Please, South Africans, public opinion matters here because everybody has been talking about this issue since last Sunday, and the president has given it only 7 days to respond. And indeed, the expectation is that we expect a much bigger.
And of course, South Africans right now are glued to their screens. Sophie, I want to bring you in as well. When you look at the issue around, everyone being glued to their screen, everybody wanting an answer from the president tonight, it's not just South Africans, right, who are keeping tabs on what is taking place in this country. What is the rest of the world saying?
Well, I think people are watching. When you talk about crime, crime cuts across in the region, on the continent, and globally. You'd recall the commissioner of KZN spoke about a syndicate that is operating across our borders, across Atlantic, that is Mexico and Brazil. And the Interpol will be watching and looking at the developments in the country. South Africa was grey listed. It's trying to get out of that grey listing. The issue of crime, commercial crime, which it points to this, it's about money and transactions. It will be important for them to see how South Africa is going to handle this. But also, I think when we look at the president has got nothing to lose. He can fire that entire cabinet. He's got nothing to lose. 2027, the ANC is going to a conference. 2029, he is not coming back. He's not coming back in 2027 as the ANC president and as the president of the country. To ensure that you do what you promised when you ascended to this position of being a head of state, taking that oath of office, fighting corruption. If he wants to salvage his legacy, this is a moment to be bold to be bold, guided by the law, by the Constitution. If he gets unpopular because he protected the Constitution and the law, so be it, because that's his role. And that can even bring a different message within the ANC, those people who are disgruntled. We know that during election, majority of ANC voters stayed away because they were not happy in terms of how the leadership at times conducted itself. It can even bring some little confidence to say he was bold, he took a decision. Therefore, I'm saying using the Constitution, following the prescripts of the Constitution and the law, he can do the right thing. And those who will be aggrieved, he can point to the Constitution. When you say, I've been given the powers to protect the executive in terms of some of these things.
And Sophie, staying with that point that you made a bit earlier on, saying that President Cyril Ramaphosa, there's 2027, and that's the ANC's conference that's coming up. At the same time, elections, national elections taking place in 2029. Professor Susan, I want to bring you in now. When we look at the ANC's conferences and, the ramifications it has for the broader scale in the country and the political spectrum, what do you make of such of these allegations making their way? You'd remember back in 2007, that was just before the Polokwane conference, so when we saw the issues around Jackie Silebi and also those allegations leveled against him. How do you link what has taken place now with Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and the ANC's conference in 2007 and the upcoming ANC conference now, when we also know that, Senzo Mchunu was also vying for some sort of senior position within the top 7, also coming from a province like KwaZulu-Natal, where the support of the ANC has dwindled, when you particularly bring into the fray the issue around the MK party?
Yes, these are some of these subtexts and complexities that we have to address when we look at this. We know there is a KwaZulu-Natal KZN element in this whole equation. So many other role players are from KZN. Senzo Mchunu is one of the candidates that have been named as having presidential ambitions in the ANC coming in there. It could be that allegations are pushed, but we yet do not know what is true and what isn't true, but that allegations are being pushed to try to get rid of him as a potential candidate. And that would open up better possibilities again for the MK party to make further progress in that province. There are so many of those factors that are absolutely pivotal, and we don't yet know. We haven't seen how they are going to be playing out, but it's definitely playing a big role. And we cannot disconnect all these loose ends. They definitely are in some formation. And with the NEC or the ANC coming up in about a week's time, towards the end of the week, I think the timing of this crisis is catching President Ramaphosa a bit at an inconvenient moment. He would ideally have cleared it there, or perhaps it's something that he wants to use his presidential powers and not to take it to the NEC, because we know the NEC is so divided and things might get stuck in the NEC again. So that is another factor to take into account there. And yes, further elections coming up. It is not just local elections late next year, but the 2029 national elections again. And what is happening to the ANC now. Yes, the ANC is not, even if they're often acting as if they are the sole party in power, they are not the sole party in power anymore. And they may very well, in these moments that we sit and talk here, be consulting with the 9 coalition partners in the GNU and making sure they can't be accused afterwards that they've made big changes without any consultation. So politics is in a phase of incredible complexity. It's not what it used to be a few years ago, and the issue of Phala definitely complicates the whole matter. It almost pushes Ramaphosa to go into some of the softer options towards his colleagues or aspirant former
Susan,
colleagues.
I want to pause you there. We're getting pictures of President Ramaphosa, in fact, arriving at the Union buildings. It's about we're coming up to 7:05. A very good evening to you. These are pictures of President Cyril Ramaphosa, as I was saying, arriving at the Union buildings. He was scheduled to have started addressing the country about 5 minutes ago on the crisis within the SAPS, but that time has now moved to 7:30 as we're running the breaking news on your screen. Sophie, let's talk about, actually, let's listen.
So we are ready for you, Mr. President. So the announcement, the nation will be quite pleased with what you're going to do tonight.
Your hands are very cold.
I've been standing here, Mr. President, waiting for you.
Yes.
And so I guess you're ready to speak to the nation now.
In a few minutes.
In a few minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, so I hope my hands will then be warm.
Yes,
Well, you've seen the president there. He is basically saying he's ready to speak to the nation. We've been standing here outside, and then, of course, that handshake, so where he felt the freezing hand. But clearly, we are set for 7:30, and I think they just want to do one or two things. They'll do the testing to see if the auto cue that they will use is fit for how he will want to speak. And then we will then get going with the president at 7:30. We expect him to make that announcement about the national security issues emanating from what Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi said, the provincial commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal.
And Mzwandile, as we wait for that, then nothing official that the government is letting slip in terms of where this conversation or this announcement is likely to go. What will he announce remains the question of the hour.
Oh, of course, we can also speculate. I mean, we know this is a serious matter. There's probably some sort of commission, committee, task team, something that will be set up, and then perhaps seeing the minister taking a step back, perhaps the appointment of another minister, maybe in the acting capacity. So this is what we expect. And then this will probably be speeded up so that I think the nation can then have confidence once again.
So I will come back to you in a few minutes. Thank you very much for that. We want to bring back into the conversation SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena, Professors Levi Ndo and Professor Susan Boyson still with us. And Professor Boyson, you were speaking just there before we had to catch the president as he arrived at the Union buildings. And we've spoken a lot about Senzo Mchunu, who I think we can all agree is the big political name in the scandal. But there's also someone by the name of Shadrack Sibiya in the mix. Shadrack Sibiya has had multiple brushes, shall we say, with controversy over the years. You've got him now implicated by Mkhwanazi in these allegations made last week. But interestingly enough, the former Joburg Mayor, Kabelo Kwamanda, has also been speaking about Sibiya, accusing him basically of establishing a rogue intelligence unit when he worked in the metro. But Sibiya is also believed to be someone who's very interested, Prof, in becoming the next head of the Hawks after Godfrey Lebeya retired in May. Does everything that's happened in the last 7 to 8 days kill any chance of that happening for him?
Tentatively, it looks like it's going in that direction, but there are so many uncertainties and loose ends here. And if we're still going to have an investigation, so much can come up against anybody. But it seems as if Shadrack Sibiya's days of aspiration for that position may very well be very limited.
And Professor Ndo, what do we make of the fact that while both Minister Mchunu and Sibiya have said that the allegations made against them by Mkhwanazi are baseless, neither of them has actually come forward with anything credible to refute, debunk what Mkhwanazi says he's got in the form of these WhatsApp messages, etc., that prove their alleged involvement with syndicates?
Well, I think they could be waiting for a proper investigation to take place. When I was listening to Mkhwanazi last week, I could sense that there could be certain other things that are missing. And the best thing that most people would decide to do is that when there are allegations against you, you could have to wait for the proper time to respond. And now that there are cases that are opened, and you know that there are parliamentary investigations going on, the president still has to make an announcement because you need to brief the president. You still have to meet with your party. I think the option that the minister could have had would be to say, let me keep quiet and only respond to the bodies that are established to investigate this matter. And to create a situation where the matter is not continuously being spoken about and wanted to lay low, you therefore decide to keep quiet and respond at an appropriate time. And I think that is what they could have decided to do. And the innocence, because there is an element of consistently saying that these statements are not true, we are not guilty, then maybe they're just waiting for the committee, if it can be established, that can sit down and probe all these issues.
And Sophie, perhaps as we bring you in there, just on what you were nodding as the Prof was speaking, but I also want to put to you then what's been going on in the public discourse, because the public's minds are, for all intents and purposes, pretty decided, right? There's a narrative that has been created of absolute angels and absolute villains here. How damaging is that in pursuit of what the truth actually is?
That is why I'm saying the president's decision must be in line with the Constitution and the laws of the country. And the laws of the country are clear. A person is innocent until proven guilty. The Constitution outlines very clearly, if you go to section 96 of the Constitution, in terms of how ministers must behave and conduct themselves, and what steps the president, with the powers he has as per the Constitution, are in his disposal to deal with these kinds of challenges. He must just follow the Constitution, follow the law. Because even if the public is not so conversant, not everybody is conversant with the Constitution and the law in terms of the processes, the section I'm talking about, when you point to that, the South African public, majority, not all, respect the Constitution. They will understand. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Use the Constitution. You are the sole person who is supposed to protect the Constitution at the highest level. That is why you are a commander-in-chief of armed forces, because you are the one who gives them the orders to protect the Constitution when things get out of hand. And therefore, he must just do that.
Yeah.
And secondly, on the issue of the two different people, we know that we spoke to people, some of us, we speak to people, that Mkwanas and the National Commissioner, they have consulted other people outside government, outside the police force, eminent people in the country. They were advised to retreat to the barracks. In other words, to lie low, allow the processes to take its course. And they've done that.
Yeah.
I was saying to somebody, I'm not surprised that nobody has spoken to Mkwanas since then. I think that advice, they do listen. They did listen to say, okay, now this thing is here. The president is dealing with it. The relevant people are dealing with it. The nation is watching. The world is watching. Let's take this advice to take a step back, almost like saying to the armed forces, don't continue fighting, go to the barracks.
Exercise restraint.
Yeah.
Yes, and the president also called for that. So I think when you look at how they have conducted themselves, both sides, all the sides up to now, including the minister himself, one statement and then since then quiet. I think we should be proud of South Africa to say we do face challenges and we have to. No, people are not immune to mistakes and no one is perfect. As long as they can stick to the rule of law and the Constitution, even the officials, they've committed themselves to abide by the laws of the country and to protect the Constitution.
Sophie, staying with the issue around, now that you've raised, with National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola as well as General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, the KZN Police Commissioner, one would then also bring into the fore, they are now, we've seen today, this morning, Sunday newspapers reporting the fact that, well, ADEC was going to take action against Fani Masemola as well as Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. And of course, these are the reports we are seeing, and they apparently have been fingered in a tender fraud corruption. When it comes to this tender fraud of these reports we are seeing this Sunday, what is the likelihood of the president also taking any action against Mkhwanazi, or has he been told to rather deal with the cabinet and let go of these other figures who are now being implicated?
I think you look at the responsibility of the president as it deals with police. He can tell the commissioner, the national commissioner, what must happen to him. And I think it will be then the responsibility of senior officials in the police service to communicate with Mkhwanazi. And I think that is why Mzwai is saying, and the president's spokesperson, that the announcement will be big. I think he is going to announce a particular process to get to the bottom of this matter. So if there's allegations against Mkhwanazi, it's something that prompted him to make these allegations. Those matters will be ventilated either in a court of law or in that process that we expect the president to announce. And fortunately, Mkhwanazi has already pressed charges against the minister. You have political parties who have gone to court. You have political parties who have requested particular parliamentary processes in terms of ad hoc committee to investigate. And therefore, these issues will be before these processes. So the nation will be able to know who is telling the truth and what is the issue here and what's at stake.
What are the implications? Should we see some sort of announcement as well when it comes to any action being taken against General Mkhwanazi, of course, KZN Police Commissioner? Because at the same time, you would have seen there's so much public sympathy for, Police Commissioner Mkhwanazi, and with many, praising him as this hero we have in South Africa.
Well, I think these are critical issues that might lead to some South Africans not being happy should that happen. But I think, as I pointed out, follow the law, follow the constitution. South Africans will understand. And I think when you look at how Mkhwanazi has conducted himself and projected himself, I think he is the one who will save the country in terms of saying, if there are processes against me, what do I do? That should be in his conscience to say, he has shown us that you have to act in a responsible manner and be honest and respect the constitution and the laws of the country. So he is better placed to assist in that as well. In the same way, the minister is saying, let me move out of the way. But the issue is that allowed in the constitution to take leave because there are allegations, or you get suspended because the president would have taken an action, and he is allowed to do that by the constitution. So I think these issues, after the president has spoken, we will have better clarity and also the reaction. But it cannot be a mild announcement. And as he pointed out in Rio de Janeiro, that this matter is serious. He is going to treat it as such. His spokesperson emphasizing a big announcement. And I think let's wait and see.
Yeah, and Sophie, as we anticipate that announcement, let's now get some views from our reporters. And Kimberley residents have expressed their views as well. And when it comes to what we can anticipate from the announcement there from President Cyril Ramaphosa, and to ramp up the fight against crime and corruption.
Let the president be honest, because the only thing that is the Mkhwanazi is talking, I believe, is the truth, because we are having a problem of drugs, the whole South Africa.
My feelings are very clear. Those people who are corrupt in the force, they must be fired, not no question, because I don't see the importance of a person having to get a salary from the government, and at the same time, that person is doing corruption.
Now that this has come out in the public domain regarding what is happening within SABC, what Mr. Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is having brought up this thing just past Sunday. We are expecting the president to decisively deal with what is happening within SABC especially. For one, where I'm living, this community, we're having many issues, burning issues, whereby police officers, when we report these cases to them, these cases are being put under the table.